And good afternoon, Washington County Quorum Court is called to session. Before we get started, I want to say again happy Valentine's belated to our citizens of the county and to all you here. Hope you had a good one. We'll go ahead and kick it off with J.P. Kicklack. Will you offer pledge and prayer?
Yes, sir. Lord, I pray this evening for the residents of Washington County, for the residents of the United States of America, and that we will all trust and love each other. Lord, I also pray for J.P. Lundstrom, who's unable to be here this evening, and for all those battling sickness throughout our county and our country. I pray for all of the intentions that we all hold together silently in our hearts. In these words I pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is warm in here. It may just be me. Okay, we will go ahead. Citizens' comments. We're going to go ahead and ask if there's any citizens who would like to visit with us. This will be the opportunity to come, and you'll have a few minutes to visit, and we'll have our county attorney kind of capture any time. Any citizen comments? All righty. We'll go with the adoption of the agenda.
Judge?
I need a... J.P. Ecke, I'm sorry. Sure.
That's okay.
You recognize me.
Thank you, Your Honor. At our last Budget and Finance meeting, I openly criticized our comptroller for her job performance. And for that, I'd like to publicly apologize for criticizing her job performance. And I regret doing that. It's not something that we should do. So, Ms. Faber, please accept my apology. And I thank you, Judge.
Appreciate you, Lisa, Justice Ecke. Okay, we'll go ahead and need a motion for the adoption of the agenda. It's been with the consent agenda as is. So as motion to accept the adoption of the agenda with the consent agenda as is. J.P. Maxwell.
I think it would be good to remove the jail and law enforcement committee report from the consent agenda, just so we can share some of the upcoming things that we're dealing with the general public at our full form court meeting.
Accept that
as a friendly amendment. Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the consent agenda with the amendment of removing the jail committee report. Do I have a second? Second by J.P. Bowman. Been moved and properly second. All in favor? Those opposed? All right, it's been moved. All right, so now we go with the consent agenda. Need a motion to accept the consent agenda, obviously, as amended. Oh, go ahead. You want to read that? The items for the consent agenda.
We have an emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for Flamingo Springs. An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Cincinnati Cell Tower. A resolution authoring the submittal of an application to the Arkansas Unpaved Roads Grant for road improvements on, and there's a change there if you look at your addition, it's the road improvements on Mustine Road, which is Washington County 855, and Blue Hole Road, Washington County 870. An ordinance creating the position of cataloging / branch clerk in the county library budget and reducing salary line items in the county library budget by $13,894 and restoring those funds to unappropriated reserves, and appropriating the amount of $38,866 from the county library fund to the county library budget for 2018. Finally, is an ordinance changing the title of lead juvenile officer in the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2018.
and then it'll be committee reports. So you heard the consent agenda items minus the one committee report. Need a motion? Motion approved and second. We'll go with a roll call. Ms. Patty?
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Joe Kicklack.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
All righty, so it's been passed. And just for the record, we did have the public comment first, and that was if there was any items on the agenda from the consent item that someone from the public wanted to visit with, they could, and that's why we put the public comments first, and then go into the adoption of the agenda. County Judge's report, I have a couple items I just want to share. We did have our State of the County last month, and so for this one, I only have a few things I want to share. We had a former employee, former IT Director John Adams, who turned himself in to the Fayetteville Police Department on Tuesday of this week. He was arrested on charges with a felony of theft of property while he was employed by the county. There were some irregularities found in our 2017 budgets that he was working through, which prompted us to look and do some internal investigation going back several years. That information was then turned over to the Fayetteville Police Department for further investigation. While the investigation is ongoing, I have directed the staff to make sure that they are very cooperative with the Fayetteville Police as they go through this process. The executive team will continue to work on some changes in our procurement process and ensure that this type of thing does not happen going forward. We also will be reviewing, continue to review budgets, qualifications, et cetera. Due to the nature of it being an ongoing investigation, I won't be answering any questions at this point in time. So no further comments to be made on that. Just want to make sure that you guys are aware, as you saw some of that come out in the paper. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of, with some of you as well, spending time at our Veterans VA with a number of county officials, a lot of city officials. There was a Valentine's recognition to recognize a lot of our veterans who are hospitalized or who have served. And so I could not believe the number of people there, a number of students who have made these Valentines and really creative cards and all, but really spending time with the veterans and their families, talking with them and sharing with them and appreciating them. And I guess, if you will, JP Keeklack sharing the love. Chamber members were there. It was a great outpouring, again, from a number of counties, a number of law enforcement, et cetera. So, again, great expression of time there with our veterans. Black History Month is here, and I know many of you guys have been participating either in the county level or city in some of the various activities going on. One of the guys I wanted to highlight, I went to school, an elementary school called Langston Hughes. And Langston Hughes was an American poet, black poet of the Harlem Renaissance. And going to his school, obviously you got the chance to read a lot of his poems and poetry. And one of them that was near and dear to me, it was a pretty long one, and I won't read all of it, but it was called The Negro Mother, and it was really centered around the mother of a black child. And being an orphan and foster kid, reading through some of this, it kind of gave me some pointed calls. I'd like to share it. 300 years in the deepest South, but God put a song and prayer in my mouth. God put a dream like steel in my soul. Now through my children, I'm reaching the goal. Now through my children, young and free, I realized the blessing deed to me. I couldn't read then, I couldn't write. I had nothing back there in the night. Sometimes the valley was filled with tears, but I kept trudging on through those lonely years. Sometimes the road was hot with the sun, but I had to keep on till my work was done. I had to keep on. No stopping for me. You see, I was the seed of the coming free. I nourished a dream that nothing could smother. Deep in my breast, the Negro mother. I had only hope then, but now through you, dark ones of today, my dream must come true. And that's Langston Hughes, and again, he's a phenomenal poet and has really, the likes of Alice Walker and all kind of followed after him and really owe a lot of their great works to him. Anyway, I just wanted to share that as we look at Black History Month. That's all I want to share with. Well, I did have one other piece. It was down at the Association of Counties, I guess last week, and a couple of items that popped up and spent a lot of time with the judges across the state. That's where we pull together all the judges in the state to get together. Jails, and I know we just had our jails committee meeting with J.P. Maxwell, and again, stuff that we're talking about here in Washington County is happening and being discussed across the state. What do we do with our jails? What do we do about reimbursements in the state, and et cetera? One of the judges is now working on a regional jail, and I think we talked about that briefly at the jail committee, but one judge has already started going down that process, and so we will continue to monitor it. They're looking at some contracts now. They've been working with their sheriff and working with a number of counties surrounding them. We'll continue to monitor that and see how that progresses as we continue to tackle our issues as we look at our jail and maybe a regional type of option. The second item that popped up tremendously was the whole opioid crisis and how it's just ramping across the state. We have a task force. The AAC started a task force to look at the opioid task force, and in fact, one of the members is Kyle Sylvester, our own circuit clerk. A number of judges are really, again, just stricken with this, and what are we going to do? Obviously, one of the things is litigation, and so the Municipal League, the AAC, and the Arkansas entities have pulled together to look at collectively working towards some litigation towards some of the pharmaceutical industry. The Attorney General is also looking to do some investigation, surely, and the governor has also obviously put some energy behind this by looking at the Crisis Stabilization Unit. All that to do something to abate this whole epidemic of opioids across the nation, not just here in Arkansas, but Arkansas has truly seen a large increase of this. The Crisis Stabilization Unit, if you recall, was 4 entities that the governor said, hey, I want to put about $1.5 million toward 4 units here in the state. One will be opening up, doing a ribbon cutting February 28th in Sebastian County. Pulaski County is looking, as well as Craighead in Washington County. Our facility, we're still looking at the location, but I think we're getting close to finalizing a place. We'll have that here shortly. But that crisis stabilization unit is to kind of help with the jails, maybe mitigating some of those who are in there, because if they have some mental concerns or drug issues, we can maybe have them in the crisis stabilization unit and not in the jail, so they can get the help that they really need. And so that's some of the thought process behind these crisis stabilization units. So that's the work, and so the opioid crisis is still big and looming, and Arkansas is really trying to work together with state agencies, counties, as well as cities, municipalities, to figure out how we can attack this particular issue. That's my judge's report. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 7. Justice Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'd ask our county attorney to read the resolution by title only, and then if you would recognize Dr. Kohler, Judge. Thank you.
A resolution of the Quorum Court of Washington County certifying local county government endorsement of Our Pharma LLC to participate in the Consolidated Incentive Tax Back Act of 2003.
And Chamber of Commerce and Dr. Kohler. Dr. Kohler, you come on up to the front. Sure. And share your name and business with the.
My name is Peter Kohler. I used to be at UAMS Northwest, retired for the second time from there, and we are starting a new pharmaceutical operation here. We do not intend to sell opioid tablets, I might mention.
Excellent. So, Ms. Chun, you want to come up here and join them? Chief, can you grab a chair next to her for her?
Here, you can have this one.
From time to time, the cities around the area will do work with drawing businesses into the area and provide some tax relief as an incentive to come because of the size and scope of their business, number of employees that they will bring, and then they will come sometime and ask the county would they do the same thing to incentivize those companies to come and build their business, expand their business, and employ, because they'll get that money on the back end with building homes and schools, et cetera. So, Ms. Chun from the Chamber, go ahead, share your name and.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Chung Tan. I'm the Chief Economic Development Officer with the Fayetteville Chamber. We are very pleased to bring before you our farmer. Dr. Kohler and his team comprises of pharmacists who have been with the Washington Regional Medical Center for many, many years. And they're looking at starting off by compounding generic drugs and then moving on, hopefully, in a few years' time to do insulin, very much to kind of like help to contribute towards a diabetic situation where the cost of pharmaceuticals are actually very high. So they're trying to bring the cost down. Thank you very much to him and his team for leading it. So the phase one calls for about $31 million of investment in Fayetteville and in Washington County, starting off with about 41 newly created jobs, very high-paying jobs on the average of about $34 per hour. Way above the minimum wage. This is also require a lot of skill sets. So by them being here in Fayetteville and in Washington County, they're actually contributing towards improving our workforce pool. And so we hope that healthcare sector is a sector that we prioritize in Fayetteville and in Northwest Arkansas. We hope that Northwest Arkansas will be known as a healthcare destination with all the improvements that is going on with Washington Regional, with Mercy, with our Arkansas Children's Hospital Northwest, with our UAMS Northwest. So all this combining together, we felt like we have that ecosystem to push it further, and now adding them to be the manufacturer. So all this is needed, and so we ask that you approve the resolution for them to get the sales and use tax. This is a way to incentivize a local manufacturer or business to buy locally, to buy from Fayetteville, to buy from Washington County. And I also have with me Zane Chenault. He is with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. So we work with the AEDC on this project as well.
Excellent.
I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved by Justice Madison, seconded by J.P. Dennis. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8, J.P. Ussery.
If you could read this by title for us, title only, please.
An ordinance changing the title of janitorial person in the building and grounds budget and reducing $81,360 from salary line items in the building and grounds budget and reappropriating the amount of $81,360 from the building and grounds budget to various other line items for 2018.
And what we're doing with this is we're reorganizing. We have some people that retired, and we're using that money to fill another position that we need. And so basically this is budget neutral, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I move that we pass this as read. Thank you.
It's been moved and properly second. Moved by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Ecke. Discussion. J.P. Keeklak.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, does J.P. Ussery believe that this will change our staff situation currently in the county?
It would. I think we said that we're going to be looking at doing some outsourcing of that. We're going to have some. I don't know if Gonzalez is here. What are we doing? A janitorial service to do a couple of buildings to do that. And that's transitioning.
And is it the case that we would be changing our staffing levels right now in building and grounds?
Well, we reduced it by the 3, and then outsourcing that piece so they can do that. So the level has dropped in staffing because of the 3 who retired, but now we'll be going to do some janitorial outsourcing for those buildings.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Mm-hmm. Any other discussion? Okay. Public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Joe Kicklack.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Item 9, J.P. Ussery.
Okay, if you could read this, please, for us by title only.
An ordinance changing the title of Security Analyst / Senior Programmer in the Information Technology budget and reducing $87,396 from salary line items in the Information Technology budget and appropriating the amount of $87,396 from the Information Technology budget to the Assessor's budget for 2018.
Okay, and what we're doing with this is that we're just deferring the cost to where it should be. We've got a person that is in IT that does a lot of work for the assessor's office, and the assessor's bills are paid by a multitude of people that get the tax dollars. And so by us moving this, it will remove a significant amount of money from our general budget, general fund rather, and put the cost where they should be. And so it will be budget neutral overall, but it will certainly help the county with the general fund. And so I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
Moved by Justice Ussery, seconded by J.P. Devins. Discussion?
Yes, and just to add to that, that the $87,000 will be put back into county general at the end of the year. I know Justice Kicklack has been out for a while because he was sick, but anyway, just wanted to reaffirm that we will get that money back into county general. Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussions? Public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Joe Kicklack.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
All right, the motion passed. J.P. Ussery, item 10. I think you have that as a split.
Yes, we have item 10 split, and I would like to, if we could read the one that appropriates the $16,000, if we could do that one first.
Is that 10.1?
Okay.
Show me where the split ordinances are.
Yeah,
And this
is that
one
10
doesn't
point-
look split. It's on the agenda. So I'm
Do we have the
fairly
10?
confused.
Yes, it's a handout. Here's the split.
It's not on the agenda that way.
You're right, because the agenda had already been set and sent out before the finance meeting, and that's why the agenda hadn't changed, and that's why you got a handout with the additions to it.
But
So-
it was sent to the full quorum court as split.
Correct.
We
which
can't
is-
change an agenda since Monday?
We typically don't. I mean, that's because we have a lot of changes that come up, and so typically Ms. Burnett doesn't change them. We do additions and add to them because this has already been sent out. It's already been published. We can if that's what the court would. If that's the court's pleasure, it's your agenda. We've just tried to follow with past practices and.
Show me where split number 1 and split number 2
It's
is.
10.1.
That's correct.
Okay.
J.P. Ussery.
And the one that we want to do first is that we want to fix the 2018 budget first. And so that one is ordinance, it's the one that has the appropriation for the amount of $7,434.
No.
Nope, I'm sorry, it's the other side of the page, I apologize. I'll get it right in a moment. It'll take a moment.
Maybe a typo. I see 216 and 2017 rather than 2017 and 2018. Oh, there it is.
Yes. So if you read that one, we read that one. 2018 is the first one that he's reading, the ordinance appropriating the amount of $8,000 from the general fund to county attorney budget for 2018.
Right.
That's that the one you're on?
Yes.
Okay. You got it, J.P. Maxwell? Okay. J.P. Maxwell.
I shared my concerns with Judge Wood by email earlier this afternoon. After I was confused coming away Monday how this type of mistake was made. And then there was a notation in the paper that the salary was set at $70,000 in January. And so I did some digging, and the reductions from what we passed the 2016 budget with different people in the jobs. We had a different planning director, we had a different buildings and grounds supervisor, we had a different county attorney. Those people had held their positions. We granted them a budget for 2017 at an increased pay rate. So the $76,300 that we budgeted in 2016 was for Mr. Zaga, because he was the county attorney in 2016. On January 11th, Mr. Lester sent an email that gave the salaries for the new staff that had replaced the former staff. And for everyone except one, they were all showing a reduction. They showed what the new salary would be and what the budgeted salary would be. And that overall was a cost difference of $37,643. So those were the salaries that were publicly announced in January 2011, that Mr. Lester would be making $70,000. The budget was higher. The budget was the additional amount, $76,000. I'm trying to do all this on my phone. $76,300. And then there's no agendas or minutes for January, February, or I think March on the website. But you can go back through the City of Fayetteville's videos of the meetings. And so I watched the personnel meeting, which J.P. Ecke may remember this from February. And that was when, for the first time, we were presented with the option of creating the second co-chief of staff position. And Judge Wood was away at a conference, and Mr. Watson came. That was the first time J.P. Ecke was trying to call him Watson. And I watched this whole meeting over again today. So she asked for our forgiveness for her informality, because he prefers to be called Watson than Mr. Watson. But anyway, it was that meeting. And it was the first time that we'd been presented with that idea. And Mr. Watson said that the savings from the staff efficiencies were what was going to pay for the new chief of staff position that they had. And I'll quote you what he said in the meeting. He said that the partial funding for the proposed co-chief of staff position was available due to, quote, efficiencies with new staff, unquote. And then there were further questions about it, and he was advised those changes were permanent, is what we were told. Now, I know that position sort of died that night because Judge Wood was out of town, and Justice Harbison made a motion to defer it. So it was on the Budget and Finance Committee the next night, and then we didn't act because it hadn't made it out of personnel. And then the best I can figure out, it never went any farther than that. But what concerns me is that we were told a mistake was made, that somehow we made a mistake, that the county underpaid Mr. Lester by $6,300. And I don't think a mistake was made. We got an email from Mr. Lester saying my salary is $70,000. And so here's what gives me pause. If they'd come and said, look, Mr. Lester needs a raise, you'd budgeted for it, let's give him the raise, that's fine. But they were sold to us as efficiencies, and Mr. Lester wasn't the only one for which there was a difference. And I don't want to, Mr. Lester's salary information is already out there, but I'm going to protect the privacy of these to some extent. One individual was budgeted at $49,000 roughly, and that salary was $40,000. Another employee, $64,000, he was going to be paid $53,000. Another individual, almost $61,000, he was going to be paid $50,000. Mr. Gales made almost what his predecessor made, but there was a little bit of a difference. And so it's like, did we make a mistake on all of those? Did we underpay all of them? I think this was just the judge with brand new people in the position deciding to pay them differently. That's the way it was sold in January. And so for us to now be told that we made a mistake that we have to rectify concerns me, because I don't think that's what happened. It's pretty clear if you see these emails that the salary was $70,000. The budget was different because the budget had been for Mr. Zaga. I don't like being told we made a mistake when I don't think it was a mistake. I think the salary was set at $70,000, and now we're being asked to give someone a $13,000 raise, basically, to pay for last year and this year. And then I worry, are we going to see the other individuals come behind that? Because that will be a cost of, if we corrected all of them, it's $75,000. It's a $75,000 hit to our budgets.
Okay,
So,
let me just jump in real quick. Mistake for 27, yes, the budget was 2016 for 76.3, of which I shared with Brian Lester, if he would not take the 76.3, so I could go into, he was the only one that I said that for. Everybody else took their reduction. He was the one I took it down for so I could work. He told me he could not. It would be tough, but if we can get that second. So anyway, that was our discussion. That's neither here nor there. My question, I guess, is what happened to the $6,300? If it was in his budget at the end of the year, would he had $6,300?
well, but the budget year's closed, so, and you all spin it because Mr. Zaga filed a grievance, and by filing a grievance, he maintained his salary, so he had to double pay for a while. But we're being asked to have increased funding of $13,000 to pay for something that wasn't a mistake. I was left Monday with the distinct impression that we had screwed up.
I'll concede 2017 because we did have Zaga still being paid while we had Lester coming in. So whatever we would have had at the end of the year on county attorney's budget, he would have still had $6,300 remaining in his budget. Correct? If we didn't have Attorney Lester there, he would have had that $6,300 that was allocated and budgeted by the court for 2016. I guess really let's look at the 2018 because we did put in the $76,300 to put it back to what the budget was in 2016. That's what we put in. Therein lies where the Scribner or what have you became a mistake.
Well, I don't understand why we publicized that his salary was $70,000. There was some contingency. When Mr. Watson came to us to talk about the staff efficiencies that had resulted in a savings to the county, that was never like, oh, but if you don't approve this position, we're spending that money anyway. And I don't think it's fair for Mr. Lester to be the only one to benefit from that. There were other people that, I mean, if we're going to pay everybody the budgeted salary, then let's cough up the $75,000 to pay all these people. It just doesn't make sense to me. If you say someone's salary is $70,000, then that's what it is. Don't come to us a year later and say, oh, can you give this guy an additional $13,000? I just feel like we've been misled, Judge. That's what I feel like.
I don't. And in particular, okay, again, if I concede the 2016, because we did have two attorneys. Or 2017. 2016, you approved it. 2017, we started the year with two attorneys, if you will, paying two attorneys.
Right, but why didn't you come to us after that and say, okay, well, now that because we had this double dipping for a while, that's not a bad term for it, but we now need to fully fund Mr. Lester's position. When the co-chief of staff position died by March, we should have known about it then. And we could have fairly evaluated it.
Got it, own it.
But what about the other people?
And so, again, I concede the 2016, 2017 budget. But for 2017, I made sure that we went back and asked him to make sure he put that back for 2018, which he did. It didn't get approved. It didn't get put in. We got the records. We did it. As we saw the 2016, we put it back in for 2018. So you approved it at 76.3. In 2016, when we did the budget last year, 2017, we put it back in to 76.3.
Well,
so the finance and budget did not get the 76.3 that we put in requested.
No, we absolutely didn't. The court knew nothing of this. The court, the public was told that Mr. Lester's salary was $70,000. There was no, he agreed to take a cut.
No, for 27, this last year's budget was put in for 76.3.
But that was what we'd approved in 2016 for a different county attorney who'd been at 70 and was getting a raise.
Okay, so if I put the budget request in for 76.3, which was the same budget from the year before, who changes that?
You set the salary.
Right.
But
No,
you set it at
who-
70.
Who changed it when I submitted the budget for 76.3?
I did.
Okay, so okay, that's all I'm saying. I submitted the budget for 76.3, and
For this year.
Salary.
that's correct.
For this year.
That's correct.
And is it 76.3 this year?
No.
70,000 for his current salary. So,
So-
he got the 3.5% raise. That
Okay,
was
so what's the budget for 2018 for the salary?
72.3 or 72
Okay.
something, whatever, 70,000 plus 3.5% raise.
But where did the 70 come from originally?
From the yes.
When I roll over salaries to the budgets, I roll them over as what the current employee is making. So for 2017, Mr. Lester was making 70,000. That was rolled over and presented to you. I was not known to increase it to 76,300. We had this discussion. It was never communicated to me. So I cannot include it in the budget if it's not communicated to me to put it in the budget. So I included in the budget the 70,000, and then you all gave all employees 3.5% raise, which Mr. Lester got. So he was budgeted for 70,000 plus his 3.5% raise.
But
So,
where did the 70 come from originally?
Judge Wood,
That's what he had.
that's
in
the
his,
email you have, I guess,
That's correct.
or whatever it is.
That's correct. So I guess then when I submitted the budgets in 2017, when I submitted it as 76,000, you went back to the 70,000 that was original.
Right, because that's what he currently made.
Right, but I submitted it as 76,000.
And I like I
And there was no
explained in
communication
previous, like I explained in previous meetings we've already had about this, was that I was not aware that you all changed it. Like I said in one of the meetings that we had, was I may have noticed it was 76.3, but I probably thought, why did I roll it over as Mr. Zaga? And I put it what his current rate is, as I've done previous years. So
it was a communication, you saying, between us that when I submitted, you changed it because you thought it was a Zaga's rollover as opposed to.
I only enter your operating costs, which is, as I sent out budgets, it's yellow highlighted, as I explained. That's what I enter and put in. I don't look at the salaries because when I sent out budget sheets, as I've explained, people adjust and make errors by accident. I don't even look at the salaries because if there's salaries that need adjusted, they contact me because it's normally personnel which we bring forward as written consent.
Okay.
So that was never brought forward to me.
Okay, so I submitted a budget. I'm talking to the court at this point. I submitted a budget that I did not capture. They got changed. It got changed from 76 that I submitted, and it got changed back to 70, whatever it was. So it becomes your pleasure to say, okay, Judge, we're going to honor what you submitted, or leave it at the mistake that it was because I didn't catch it.
Well,
Sure.
The court approved a 3.5% raise for all employees, and so Ms. Farber, following that direction, made sure that it was at 3.5%. So we're being asked to give a very different raise, which is probably closer to like 10%, 7%, 8%. I don't know.
J.P. Pond.
Okay, just
Guess I don't
I
have a
want
floor
to
anymore.
make sure I didn't misunderstand where the word mistake came in, and I heard you say you made a mistake.
I didn't catch my
Okay.
person.
So, and all
Sure.
you're saying is you made a mistake, and would it be the court's pleasure to correct your mistake?
That's correct.
And I personally would prefer to stop a prolonged argument about plays on words.
Sure.
So, thank you.
J.P. Harbison, J.P. Madison.
I have a question for Ms. Barber. Did you Did you see the 76,300?
I honestly cannot say I see it, but I can say I have multiple emails where Mr. Lester himself approved his budget as 70,000.
So when Judge Wood did the salaries and presented it, you don't remember if he presented that or not. And that, you know, since it hadn't been voted on, you just fell back on
I kept it as
information.
current salary.
Okay, all right.
J.P.
That's all I need to know. Thank
Thank you, J.P. Harbison.
I just want to make sure. We're talking about a mistake as to what was this budget year. I'm starting back at the 70,000 on January 11th. That was what was publicized as Mr. Lester's salary. That was not a mistake. That's where I can't. That's the very foundation of this whole issue. So that's. I just want things to be on the up and up, and I didn't feel like that on Monday. And then when I dug in more and when I watched the personnel meeting, it didn't feel like that. I don't think it was a mistake, because I don't know why when the co-chief of staff position didn't succeed, it wasn't immediately brought to our attention that the money should be restored. And I see it as a $76,000 issue.
And I think I've just shared that because it was a deputy position that I was looking at, having two deputies, because it did not get approved, my assumption would have been that at the end of the year we still would have had the $6,300 that was approved for the budget that you guys approved was $76,300. He had $70,000 budget, so that means there would be $6,300 left in his budget, in his account. At the end of the year, that was not the case. So I wanted to make sure we put it into this year. So it was the budget, the changes did not happen. The court did not think we needed to have, I guess, the deputy role. So we put it in for this year. And I do have some notes for even this year for 76.3.
Well, but 76.3 for this year is very different from us being asked to go back and pay for last year too, because it seems to me that you make salary on a bi-weekly basis. I think we're paid every 2 weeks. Yeah. So
Point of order, we're talking about this one.
If at the end of the year you thought there would be, I don't understand how at the end of the year there was money in the bank that it could somehow go back and.
That was the same reason why I said go ahead and put the budget for this year at 76.3, because that was the budget you guys approved in 2016 for 76.3. There's no real deep thought to this. You guys approved the budget for 76.3. He only got paid $70,000.
Because you set it at $70,000.
That's correct. That's correct. And then at the end of the year, there should have been 76.3 or said 6,003. We submitted the budget again for 76.3. And
whatever happened, his salary was set at $70,000. It was $70,000 all last year, and no one else that was part of the staff efficiencies that we were told were saving the county money. No one else is getting that money.
That's correct, because none of them had that conversation with me. But
I will point out that the emails that you sent that you got from Scarlett today, that you sent to us, was the date on that is January the 11th. That was before the position went before Finance Committee in February. Judge Wood and I had a conversation prior to my hiring. I think that's what he's trying to say. There was a discussion about this. I don't know what he said to anyone else.
And I didn't have
Can't speak to that.
That's right. Justice Balls.
Thank you, Judge. I'm very confused now also. So 2017 was $70,000 was his salary.
Correct.
So was he paid $70,000 in 2017?
The budget was set for 76. He got paid 70.
Well, we said budgets all the time that we don't spend all the money. But if his salary was $70,000 in 2017, was he paid $70,000 in 2017 for what he was told he was going to be paid?
Correct.
Okay, so sounds like 2017 he got paid correctly. That's done. It's over with. We're moving on to 2018. Because I look at the budget for 2018 and it's $72,450. This is not a comptroller's problem. I think people need to be responsible for their budgets. I would have approved $76,000 for you, Mr. Lester. I really would have. I don't have a problem with that, but those budgets were approved for $72,450. I think that's. I mean, I'm okay if we want to talk about raising it, but that's what it was. I think 2017 is a done deal. I don't think there's any getting money back on that one. If we want to talk about 2018, I'm open to that discussion.
And that's what we're talking about is 2018.
Well, we've been talking about the 6,000 from 2017 done and over with.
I wasn't talking about 2017. The Justice Usry brought up the 2018.
Okay, so let's stick with 2018. For 2018, we approved 72,450. Everybody was good. Everybody saw it.
No, not true.
That's not
true.
Well, I'm
because
looking
y'all
at it
passed
right
my
here,
budget. You passed my budget on the night that I wasn't there. It was not scheduled to be passed. So you can't say anything about you knew about this. That's not true. I
Judge,
emailed Ms. Farber.
I think the county attorney is out of order.
Okay.
I think he's here to be parliamentarian and give legal advice, not argue with the JP.
Go ahead, JP Balls.
Only when you disagree with me.
JP Balls.
That's all I'm saying. We talk about these budgets for months. And when I do my budget for my job, I make sure my salary is correct. That's all. I'm not putting any blame on you, Mr. Lester. Don't.
Well,
okay, then I am going to put the blame on you because you had your budget, you turned it in, it was approved wrong. You could have brought it to us for an approval again. Don't get upset with us. We approved that was brought to us. So don't get on me about it. If you want to have your budget changed, we can have that discussion. The mistake was made. We're trying to fix it. I don't know why you're so upset with me.
No.
We're trying to fix it.
So again, I think his budget got caught up in the fins piece. You guys brought that back up. He reduced his budget. He had the 76 in. You guys put it back in. You put money back into his budget, and he wasn't here to say whether he wanted it in there or not. That was done to his budget prior to him even coming. Again, we submitted the budget for 76.3. I think Director Farber said she didn't see it. I think I got some notes that there was back and forth between the county attorney and her about that, and that he submitted it again as such, as 76.3. That's neither here nor there. That's what we submitted. That's what I and the chief sat down. We sat with each one and approved their budgets of what they submitted to us, and then we sent it all forward to the comptroller, which was then presented to the Finance and Budget Committee. So anyway, I'm just sharing that. JP, was it Harbison? JP Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I think it's been uncomfortable to discuss 17 and 18 and the errors that were made or not made, but it seems pretty clear what the budget was that we voted on. And we do spend quite a bit of time in budget going over numbers. And given the complexity of this, I'm inclined to think this needs to go back to finance, because it was presented to us in this last finance meeting as an error that had been made. And I'm convinced now that no error was made on the part of the Quorum Court. I don't think we made an error.
I just shared that I did make an error. I just shared that the 2017 budget, I submitted 76.3, and I, as a collective judge's office, did not capture the fact that it got changed from 76 to 70.
What I'm saying is the Quorum Court did not make an error. We acted on the information that was given to us. If that information was an error, then it needs to go back to finance, probably to have a better fleshing out of this issue.
I don't know that change would happen, because, I mean, what's the difference? It going back is going to be the same, what I just shared. I submitted a budget for 76, and it got approved for less than that.
The budget amount is not necessarily the same as what the salary was set at. I mean, departments often have budgets that account for a lot of things besides just salaries. So I would move that this goes back to finance.
Second.
It's been moved. Second. Any discussions? All in favor? Roll call. Ms. Patty.
Hey, would you repeat the motion, please?
So the motion is to send it back to Finance and Budget. 2018. Ms. Patty.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins. Robert Dennis.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Joe Kicklack.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
No.
Butch Pond.
No.
Bill Usry.
No.
No, actually, with all due respect, I think it does
Ms.
pass.
Patty? What's the number?
It's a majority of those voting for a simple motion, and because J.P. Devins abstained and we have 2 absences.
What's the count, Ms. Patty?
6 for, 6 against, 1 abstained, and 2 absent.
6 for, 6 against?
6.
Okay.
It has to have a majority to pass, which it doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay. All right. So we move to item.
It's the same one.
Right.
We're still on this. It doesn't pass.
It did not pass. 6. Oh, I thought it was 6-6. Okay. So we had a motion to Justice Usry, motion to pass, and a second by Lisa Ecke for 2018. Any discussion? No, one was 2017. He's doing 2018 first.
Point of order, would you clarify whether it's the one that's 7-4-34 for 2017, which is the one I believe he had read?
No, he read the 2018, the ordinance.
8606.
An ordinance appropriating amount of $8,606, 2018.
Okay, so
that's what he read.
8606 that we're voting on.
That's correct.
Thank you.
J.P. Madison.
Just so everybody knows, this would take the salary to $79,464, which is not the full cost because of the additional benefits. So keep in mind that I think when Mr. Zega took the job, it was at 70.
J.P. Usry. We got a motion. We got a second. Any discussion? Any other discussion? J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Judge. Of course, I've got a simple mind, I guess, but common sense-wise, we were paying, I think I heard you say 2011, $70,000. So to raise that position, not Lester, not Zega, just that position, it went from $70,000 to $76,300. That's only 1.28% per year increase. That's not very much increase per year in that. Yeah. You go from 70 to 76.3, from 11 to 18. No? Okay. My mathematician over there says I'm wrong. But anyway, I guess I'll say it this way. $76,300 for the county attorney doesn't bother me too much. And 79, I guess he'd be making up for what he lost last year. So to me, it's okay. It's pretty simple. And common sense wise, he's, hope he's worth that. And I also understood how that he made the error wanting him to take less in order to pay for someone else more, or to have that money to put on another position. So I think it's pretty explanatory. So I'm good with it. I'll just say it that way. Maybe I did my math wrong, but it wasn't that big of an increase over the years. So thank you.
J.B. Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge. I just have a couple of questions to make sure I'm understanding this. I was thinking the $70,000 was perhaps Mr. Zega's ending salary in 2016?
No.
With his raise, it would have been his ending salary.
No, it would have been the beginning for 17.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what he had accumulated to at the end of 2016. Going into 2017, had he still been there, that would have been his pay.
76.3.
Yes. So I guess my question is, well, I guess one to address J.P. Dennis, as I'm trying to understand the math here. I guess he started at 70. Is that right? When he became the county attorney?
You're talking about who?
J.P. Zega. I mean, Attorney Zega.
I don't know.
Okay. And then my question, I guess, would be, how long did he take to go from 70 to the intended 76? I can't recall how many years he served the court.
2 years.
2? Okay. Was that 70 to 76, was that normal raises and normal process for him, if anyone recalls? Ms. Farber, I hate to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to think of who's still here that would know the numbers.
Mr. Zega, based on how Blair did it, and I don't know if Watson's here, he might have to correct me, but you all came back and asked him we did regular employees, and then we did unclassified, ungraded employees separately on raises. And then you all requested that Blair treat the unclassified as you did regular employees based on longevity and market value, I think, of the position. So when Mr. Zega's position was looked at by Blair, he received a 9% raise based on his, I guess, longevity and market, and based on the market, which brought him to the 76.3.
I guess I would just say this. I think one of the reasons that I was of the opinion to move this to budget and finance is because it seems like the question has changed somewhat from, as it's been pointed out, clerical error, whatever. So I just wanted to make sure that we follow typical salary increases the way we would with any employee, according to longevity, experience, market value, et cetera, all the things that we go through. So I just still have several questions about that portion of it, since the question has now changed from mistake to a raise, effectively. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
J.P. Bowman and then J.P. Harbison.
Thank you, Judge. You know, one thing is very obvious to me. The judge has admitted that there was a problem there in communication right off the start of a new administration, a new attorney coming on board, and a lot of other things up in the air at that time, as well as using a FOIA request that got put in the paper before some of this took place. And, you know, I've realized that we routinely go back and correct errors, and we have a clear acknowledgement here that an error was made in communications about the situation. And I appreciate the judge being candid enough with us to say very pointedly, I made a mistake, and it wasn't communicated properly. But as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to move on with this and acknowledge the judge's mistake in this situation and see that Mr. Lester is compensated the way the judge told him he would be. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison.
I just want to make a comment about the raises that we did 2 years ago, in that we tried to bring everybody up to market value. And when we did that, we had some people that had 5 and 6% raises. And this is just an example. You know, let's take out the persons and the personality. What is the market value of an attorney? And technically, we're just putting this at market value. This shouldn't have anything to do with individuals. So, you know, I'll be supporting this because we've already done this. We've brought everybody up to market value so that we would be competitive with the market out there to keep good people for our county. Thank you.
J.P. Devins, then Pond, then Madison.
Thank you, Judge. That was actually my question. I think Mrs. Farber had made the statement. I was wanting to clarify that the 76.3 was market value.
That's correct.
And I think she made that statement.
That's
Am I correct? Thank you. Thank you.
I went to Pond.
I'm good.
Okay.
Ms. Harbison
J.P. Madison
stole all
and
my
then
thunder.
J.P. Ecke.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Judge. I'm still having pause over this issue because it came to us in finance as a mistake that we had made and that we were having to fix
That I made.
with two different ordinances to fix it. And I think Mr. Lester is a fine attorney. He's treated me very well. He's answered my questions well. I've met with him one-on-one to go over things, and I appreciate the advice I've gotten. So this really does not mean to reflect on him. I'm just having some problems with the way this has been handled and presented, because I remember clearly being told that some salaries had been reduced to have greater efficiency in the county, and I applauded that. And now it appears that there was some wiggle room in that statement, and I'm just bothered by that. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Was it Ecke and then J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'm having a hard time reconciling how our county judge submits a budget with a request for salaries, and where that communication broke down between that office and the comptroller and the quorum court to where it was changed. That is where I don't understand, and I can't reconcile. If I were to submit a budget and somebody else changes it, what authorization did that person have to override the county judge's budget without communicating this number and this number aren't the same? Which number do you want to submit? It's your budget. You're the county judge, rather than assumptions.
Sure.
I can't reconcile that triangle, so to speak. So I just, I'm in support of passing this. I take it that this was your intention, this is what you wanted for 2018, and I will be supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
The reconciling, that's for me to own as far as internal, and I have to work through that communication piece. J.P. Madison and then J.P. Keeklank.
Just to clarify, the work that Mr. Johansson did in 2016 for the raises that we gave in 2017 also included the tenure of the people in those positions. It wasn't entirely market driven, because there were, if y'all will remember, everybody got at least a 5% that year, but then they were all over the map otherwise, because Mr. Johansson's very in-depth work, and Watson, I don't think you were here yet, were you?
Just at the beginning.
Okay. But that work was it not only looked at market, but it looked at the time and position for the people. And Mr. Zega at that point had been in his position since January 3rd of 2015. So he had served 2 years as county attorney at some sum of about $70,000, and we decided, I think, to move him in part of the overall market tenure correction to the 76.3. And I believe the subject of the salaries even came up at Mr. Zega's grievance hearing, because I think there was sort of some testiness back and forth, as lawyers sometimes get, about what everybody was worth. And I...
Point of order.
Well, I'll read. So, but I want everybody to understand that, and then I'm just going to say one thing. We praise the efficiencies of when it's reported to us that we're saving money. And I have a hard time with just sort of dishing it out without much thought, because this is a $9,000 raise for one employee when every other employee got a 3.5%. And this is not, the $79,000 is just for this year. We're going to proceed to then go back and fix last year. And I just don't know how we can applaud efficiencies and saving money when everybody's just willing to hand one employee a $9,000 raise. I look at the other people that were part of the efficiencies, and I don't know why they're not getting it too. If what we budget sticks with everybody, then it sticks with everybody. And I think this ordinance ought to be amended to add those individuals, and that the true cost would be, for this ordinance, would be almost $37,000. And I'll give you the actual note amount. $37,643. That would be to change the chief of staff's salary, the planning director's salary, the buildings and grounds, and the executive assistant.
J.P. Keeklank.
It's not much for
J.P.
you, Carl.
Keeklank.
At the start of the speech, I'd like to be recognized for my points of order, as I think that we should all be recognized when using parliamentary procedure. Okay? Moreover, Judge, was the county attorney told that his salary for 2018 would be $76,300?
That's correct.
Okay. And was he told that in 2017 as well?
2017 when we did the budget, yes.
Okay. Were any other employees told that they were to make something in 2018 that they're not making right now because of any kind of error, mistake, or otherwise?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Call for the question. Go ahead. Miss, we're going to do a roll call. We got a motion. We had a second. For what? For the 2018, for the ordinance that he read. An ordinance appropriating the amount of $8,600 to the general fund to the county attorney budget 2018.
Who called the question?
I'm calling the question.
I don't think you can.
I think I can.
Call the question.
I just don't think the judge has the authority to call the question. But that's okay. I wasn't sure where it came from.
Judge, I call the question.
All right,
Thank you. You have to actually be recognized and seconded, and we have to vote on it.
J.P. Ecke.
Call the question.
All right. It's been properly seconded. J.P. Ecke, call the question, seconded by J.P. Harbison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. J.P. Barnett, you ready to go for J.P.? Miss Patty.
Daniel Balls?
No.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Alicia Devins?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Joe Kicklack? Eva Madison?
No.
Sue Madison? Joel Maxwell? Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Usry?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. J.P. Usry.
Actually, it doesn't. It takes 10 to pass an appropriation ordinance.
What's the numbers, Miss Patty?
Yeah, 8, 4 is 4.
What?
And 1 mistake.
One more time?
8,
8.
4.
Okay.
And 4 was
All right, so it does not pass.
We can go on a second reading at the next.
We'll bring it up next month. All right. I don't have committee reports, but other business. Let's go with committee report. The only one that we would have is J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Judge. The reason for wanting to, I guess, highlight this committee report, we usually do those very quickly and keep them, but this is something that's going to affect the entire county. Actually, I guess it affects the federal, the state, and the cities as well. So I just kind of want to highlight some things that are on the horizon for the jail and law enforcement piece. For those of you that don't know, the jail is one of our biggest budget items. It's a state-mandated responsibility. It does serve every entity from federal, state, cities, and then, of course, our county prisoners. We house all of those. It has its own dedicated sales tax. And even with all that, it typically needs extra funding every year. I think last year, it was $2 million that we had to add to the jail budget just to take care of a cost that we have very little control over. We certainly don't get to decide how many folks we house, how long we keep them, or in some ways what the costs are. So with that in mind, there are about 4 things on the horizon that are going to affect our jail capacity shortly. One is we have about a 20% increase right now in felony cases. So those take longer to get to trial, keep people longer, and crowd the prison a little more. Population of Washington County and Arkansas in general is growing, and that applies to our jail as well, unfortunately. And then Springdale has just voted. It was still a question when we had our jail and law enforcement, but they have passed their bond issue. So it looks like there's a very great chance that we will be taking on their jail responsibilities. I believe they intend to close their jail with the passing of that bond. And then the fourth thing that is going to affect our population is currently now we have a limited number of judges that process these folks through. So because of that, it just takes more time sometimes to get, especially if they're a felony case or a homicide case, it takes a lot longer to get them through. We do have a bright spot on the horizon. We heard from Judge Zimmerman there's a possibility that Washington County is on the list to get an additional judge, so we have some positive coming there. But the amount of judges bottleneck the system for as population grows. Without growing the number of judges, then we end up getting a little bit slower processing time just because of numbers. So those are the things that we're facing. They're going to affect our currently pretty full jail. We tend to bump up against the maximum capacity, and for those that don't understand, I think our jail holds around 700 people, but we're not able to put a full 700 in there to get to capacity. That's because certain prisoners, depending on their age, their sex, whatever, or the severity of their crime, have to be segregated out. So even though the total number is 700, sometimes we hit our max because different pockets of the jail, different pods, exceed their max, and then we end up having, if we have more of a certain kind of prisoner, then they're sleeping on the floor. We're kind of crowding them, or we're maxed out there, where there may be some free beds across the hall in a different unit. So it's not quite as simple as just, are we at 700? But right now we're running 650 plus 680 on a regular basis. So we're definitely at the edge of what we can handle. So the sheriff came and mentioned to us 3 different options that we have to handle this overcrowding. One would be, I guess there's 4. If we get an additional judge, or we can speed that process up, that will help with it. The first one that he mentioned was a modular jail, something that can be brought in, set up. And when I hear modular, I think mobile home or manufactured housing. That's not what this would be. Obviously, be as secure as what we currently have. But the benefit to that is that it could be done on a temporary basis, and it could be set up in a likely time frame of 120 days, which is very, very quick. Judge Wood mentioned tonight that a regional jail is a discussion that we're having right now. So if that's a possibility, that would help with some of the crowding that we have, if that should go forward. A lot of question marks about that one right now as to what that would look like, how it would be funded, and what kind of capacity that would have. And then the last one, of course, would be a complete new pod build-out. That would take, as Sheriff Helder mentioned to it, if we all decided tonight that was the thing to do and we were all in agreement and we pulled the trigger and got that started right now, that's still about a 3-year process between getting funding and architects and plans and construction and getting it finished and inspected, and then being able to put prisoners in that new pod is at best a 3-year process. So even though we're not quite there yet, you can tell that it doesn't take long before we're really crowding the timelines if we chose to do something like that. So that's the reason we're having this discussion now, before we're stacking them 5 deep out there, I guess. So with that, there were 3 possibilities of funding that were put forward, and I'll list these in no particular order. These were just options that we have to consider as potential ways to fund this additional cost, because it will not be inexpensive, I don't believe. The last number the sheriff brought to us for a permanent construction was around $21 to $22 million, if I remember correctly. So quite a bit of money. The first was to have a bond issue and get that passed, as Springdale did. The second would be to increase the jail sales tax. We already have a dedicated sales tax, but we would have to add to that. And the third that was discussed was to share expenses with the municipalities that we also serve. So right now we house federal prisoners, state prisoners, city prisoners, and county prisoners. The federal does reimburse us at a reasonable rate. The state reimburses us at about half once they have been convicted. And then the rest of the customers, if you will, at our jail are just there for free. We get to pick up the tab for that. So I'm glad we do that. That's obviously a service we want to provide. We want to keep our county safe. We want to keep those people where they should be, but it is expensive and we don't always get help. Sometimes we just bear that responsibility. So those are the 3 options that were presented as things to explore and to consider as a way to fund a $20+ million project to handle the growth of prisoners in a growing county. So I just want to, the only reason I break that out is just so that our constituents would know what we're facing, what our options are, kind of where the overcrowding is coming from, why we're there, and what we're considering, so that we can kind of be wrapping our own minds around that and just kind of starting to form a consensus on the best way to address this problem. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Maxwell. I think we have another other business. Was that Bill, Justice Ussery?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a resolution that we need to pass, and it goes right hand in hand with what Mr. Maxwell is talking about, and that is, this is a resolution to the people in the state, just spelling out to them that we're being underfunded severely from the state. And I think, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh, no, this is another business. That's what I thought he asked.
Well, point of order. Good. It wasn't on the agenda. I move that we suspend the rules and read the resolution to which J.P. Ussery is referring about the state and reimbursements from the jail.
So start again and ask Counselor to read your.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So
motion to suspend.
Suspend the rules, add this resolution, and further suspend the rules and ask our attorney to read by title only.
It's been moved to suspend to add. I need a second. Second. It's been moved by J.P. Madison, second by J.P. Harbison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Lester, read that, please. Thank you.
A resolution requesting the state of Arkansas to reimburse counties the actual cost of housing and caring for state prisoners in county jails.
Okay, and thank you for keeping us on track. And so that's what precipitated this. I'm grateful that we put this together. Thank you, Mr. Lester, for doing this for us. And we'll certainly get those to the guys down there. And again, we're going to do all we can. I know I've started contacting the guys, and I'm going to continue to make sure they know who we are and what our needs are. Thank you very much.
You want to?
So I move that this be that this be passed as read.
Moved by J.P. Ussery, seconded by J.P. Madison. Discussion?
Seconded by J.P. Dennis.
J.P. Who had the question? J.P. All right. So J.P. Devins. Okay. J.P. Devins seconded. Discussion. Question. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just want to make sure everybody knows in the audience, since this was read only by title only, that our costs are $68 per day, but the state chooses to pay us only $30. And I think it would be more appropriate if the state actually covered our expense for keeping their prisoners. And I'll certainly vote for the resolution and ask that somebody make sure all the legislators get a copy. Thank you.
Been moved and properly second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Did you have a? You sure? Miss Patty will do a roll call. Sorry.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison. Joe Kicklack.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Okay, so it passes. All right. J.P. Madison.
Just trying to
Other business?
keep us on track. There is another resolution here with the sponsor of Harvey Bowman that I think he may be intending to run tonight, so I would move that we suspend the rules, add this to our agenda, and have our attorney read it by title only.
It's been moved, properly second. J.P. Maxwell. All in favor? Those opposed?
This was in the consent agenda.
Thank you, Judge. I didn't know how I got missed on this thing.
Yeah, it was already done.
I'm sorry?
That was on the unpaved roads.
Okay, yes.
Yes, it's already been done.
Let me make a comment
Sure.
about that, please. You know, we've already been granted a $75,000 from the state gravel road improvement fund, and that work is proceeding down there on Sugar Mountain Road. And in addition, we had the guy from the department up here this week to look at some additional roads. We had one that was very difficult that our chief staff took them out and showed them the road, and he said he thought that would score very low on their permission issue, and has got a lot of grants. There are people requesting a lot of grants, so he asked if we had other places that we found very difficult that might score higher. So they took him to two different locations. One was a quarter of a mile on Mustine or County Road 855, and the other one was Blue Mountain.
Blue Hole.
Blue Hole, I'm sorry. That's Washington County 870 over on the west side of the county. He said that these two locations would score very high on their permit application. So, guys, I'm really encouraged with the fact that our grants administrator and our chief of staff that's working with the road department is doing a great job. If they get this grant, that'd be $150,000 the state is going to fund us to help improve some of these very difficult roads out here.
Good.
So it's really a phenomenal kind of deal, and I just hope they'll keep up the good work.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman.
Thank you.
Any other business? J.P. Kicklack.
Thank you, Judge. While I've been out in the last couple of weeks battling illness, I've taken advantage of our live and archive videos that the City of Fayetteville records for us. And so I would remind all residents to take advantage of the resources that we have. And then if you ever do have to miss a quorum court meeting that you wish you could have attended, Fayetteville-ar.gov. In the middle of the homepage is a live and archive video section. So certainly have not missed any of our meetings, but I have missed you all. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're here. And again, do keep J.P. Lundstrom in your thoughts and prayers. J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Judge. I didn't know if we were giving reports.
We still got other business. Mm-hmm. Sure.
I didn't have anything to report because we didn't meet, but I do need to ask a question because I see it senseless to have a meeting when we don't have any agenda. But at the same time, we had tabled the animal shelter board, and I believe that Eva Madison, and Attorney Lester were going to work on that. No? So anyway, if there's no work has been done, there's no reason to have a meeting unless someone else has something else to bring up. So no work's been done on it, so we will not have a meeting.
All right. Any other business? Any other business? J.P. Madison.
Let me just make sure. Mr. Bowman, you said the first road that was assessed for this grant didn't score high enough.
Yes.
And you've since looked at Mustine Road and Blue Hole Road.
Mm-hmm.
Which roads were on the finance agenda?
I'd let Mr. Gales, could you come and speak to this issue for him, please, ma'am?
Parker Branch Road.
Parker Branch was on the first road.
And we'd now rather have this one?
And we amended it. And
To the two.
One today was for the other two roads.
With the name change.
When did we amend it?
We amended the ordinance for presentation tonight.
But they did.
So this week the guy from the state was up here.
That's what I
And he told our chief, go ahead, Carl, tell him about it.
I just want to know which one we voted on, the one that was in finance, which we couldn't have put this one on the consent agenda if we didn't have it yet.
That's correct, but tonight, when you guys were going through it, that's why they added the addition to change the naming of one road, which was Parker Branch, to the two.
Yeah. I missed that.
J.P. Pond.
I'd like to make a comment at this time. I don't believe that we on this quorum court have to vote the approval of which individual roads that are going to be worked on. I believe that's under the bailiwick of the county judge. Which roads are.
It's grant. So the grant's very specific.
Well, the finance for the grant. Okay. I can see that, but who would object to if we're not going to be able to utilize that grant money because we weren't going to be able to receive it, changing that to a different road that we would qualify on? Who would want to do that? It's just it's beyond me. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Judge,
yes.
Once again, Carl, could you explain that to them, please? What happened with Clay coming up here and talking to him and so forth? Explain the whole process to him.
Well, the way this grant works is that we select a road that we think, we notify Clay, who's the state engineer that heads this program. He comes down and he assesses it. He virtually knows what will score and what will not score. We'd selected the road Parker Branch because it's a very difficult road. It's on the middle fork of the White River. So he said the middle fork of the White River is not scoring as high in points as something that tributaries into the Illinois River. He said that's a top priority river in the state due to the fact that it's a tri-state river or a bi-state river. So we said, where we got a road that would go good, and we took him touring the western part. We toured numerous roads out there, and he settled on these two, which is a mile, which fits our program. And he said, I like these. So this ordinance has to be in by March the 9th to the state. The application has to be in full for us to qualify. There's 14 applications in that are being considered from all throughout the state. So we want to get the highest points possible. We got it last year. We're trying to get it again this year. Now, if we need to clarify in an ordinance here or a change or vote on it, I'd suggest we do it at this time to be clarity on the item.
J.P. Madison.
I think the concern was just making sure we voted on everything we needed to, because I saw one on the consent agenda. This one was different. We just want to make sure we voted on it. Nope, I don't have an issue with what we're doing or what road. I just want to make sure we get it approved so that we can submit the application. Yeah, so that's why. But
Judge,
JP Devins is telling me that it was all okay. So.
Same situation here. I want to be certain that we did get this voted on, because this is strictly an application. This is not a grant we're going to get yet.
That's correct.
It's an application.
So Patty's good.
And so we want to go ahead and authorize the judge to go ahead and submit the application.
Exactly.
All right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what we want to vote on and approve tonight.
All right.
Of course, we need to do that.
All right. And we already did it with we already did it. You just making a comment. Any other comments? J.P. Maxwell.
Just a point of clarification, the one that's listed on the consent agenda is the one that we passed, is not the one that this states, which is why this is an add-on. I think procedurally, I don't think we've passed this. So I would second J.P. Bowman's motion to pass this in its current form as an addendum.
I read the correct one when I read it on the agenda, on your consent agenda. Do what you want, just letting you know.
He did read through all the consent agenda items, which had this title for the ones when he read through the consent agenda items.
The one, excuse me if I could be recognized.
Sure.
The one on the consent agenda could not have this title because it was the Parker Branch one that was sent to the consent agenda by Finance. So I think, as J.P. Maxwell has said, the proper thing to do is probably suspend the rules, add this to the agenda, and ask our attorney to read it by title only and vote. Because if we've got a March deadline, we don't need to mess this up.
Okay, so is that the motion been moved? It's probably second to suspend the rules as read. We got to do read the title of that one.
A resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to the Arkansas Unpaid Roads Grant for road improvements to Mustine Road and Blue Hole Road.
All right. Ms. Patty, roll call.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Joe Kicklack. Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Lesser.
Yes.
All right. Any other business? Any other business? Take another motion. Motion to move to we adjourn.
We adjourn. We have a second.
I got moving second.
Before.
Meeting adjourned.